Okay, so let's move on to the next passage. Number 23. Young on-the-go eaters were thrilled. Specifically, those who prized regional foods and Italy's convivial culture built on cooking and long meals feared that the restaurant signaled the death of a way of life. This transitional phrase question requires you to recognize the relationship between the two sides of the semicolon. The left side of the semicolon says young on-the-go eaters were thrilled. The right side is about those who were not thrilled, those who prized regional foods and Italy's convivial culture built on cooking and long meals feared that the restaurant signaled the death of a way of life. They are not thrilled. They see it as a death of a way of life. They actually prize regional foods built on cooking and long meals. It's the opposite of on-the-go eaters. The sentence relates two opposite spectrums of eaters with opposing opinions on McDonald's. Therefore, opposing content is best connected with a contradicting transition like choice D. However, all other transitions are extending transitions, so choice D is our correct answer. Number 24. To counter the rise of fast food and fast life, a cohort of chefs, journalists, and sociologists spearheaded a slow food movement, declaring loyalty to unhurried enjoyment. Here, we have an introductory infinitive phrase, since the phrase starts with an infinitive, starting with the word to. Long introductory phrases are followed by a comma, so a cohort is the group that spearheaded a slow food movement to counter the rise of fast food and fast life. So, the introductory phrase does properly modify a cohort of chefs and must be followed by a comma. So no change. Choice A is correct. Choice B incorrectly inserts a dependent clause on the left side of a semicolon. Choice C incorrectly inserts a dependent clause as a sentence. And choice D is incorrect because you can never have a dependent clause on the left side of a colon. You always have to use independent clauses on the left of a colon. Some shorter introductory prepositional phrases, ones that are 3 words or fewer, are correct both with and without a comma if it is easy to tell where the phrase ends. But certainly this introductory phrase does not classify as one of those shorter ones, and it needs to be followed by a comma. So let's take a quick look at some examples. In the morning, we got up and got ready for work. That's correct, both with and without the comma. We could just say, in the morning we got up and got ready for work. And in the morning is 3 words or fewer, therefore you can either use or not use a comma. However, in our next example, after vacuuming my brother collapsed on the couch. Well, here, when an object of the preposition is a verb used as a gerund, in this case, vacuuming is the verb used as a gerund or a noun form, leaving the comma out can make the sentence sound very funny. After vacuuming my brother sounds like my brother was vacuumed. In these instances, we must insert the comma even if the phrase is 3 words or fewer. Longer or compound prepositional phrases, like the last example, must be followed by a comma since they are not 3 words or fewer. So, on the morning before my birthday, we have 2 prepositional phrases here, on the morning, and our second prepositional phrase, before my birthday. That's 6 words and is considered a longer phrase, therefore you must follow it with a comma after birthday. Number 25 now. The writer wants to add the following sentence. The group's philosophy was connected to the tale of the hare and the tortoise, in which the tortoise wins the race. To see if it is appropriate to add this sentence here, we should read up to sentence 26. Since we already read sentence 24, let's read from 26. From its beginning, the movement had opposed the standardization of taste that fast food chains promote. Now, sentences 24 and 26 generally say that the slow food movement declared loyalty to unhurried enjoyment, which is sentence 24, and that it opposed the standardization of taste, which is sentence 26. Well, the writer should elaborate on what the underlying theme of the tale of the hare and the tortoise is, instead of assuming that the reader knows the details of the story. The writer can't just expect you to know what the tale is, because ETS does not require you to know outside information to solve these questions. So, the idea is not clearly explained, and choice D, we shouldn't add an idea unless it is clearly explained, is our correct answer. Choice C is incorrect because until the writer defines the tale of the hare and the tortoise, we cannot determine whether it distracts or doesn't distract from the paragraph's focus. Number 26 now. From its beginning, the movement had opposed the standardization of taste that fast food chains promote. Since the introductory prepositional phrase says from its beginning, this indicates that the opposition is still ongoing, so has opposed needs to be used. Therefore, the present perfect tense offered in choice C, has opposed, is our correct answer. If the opposition had ended, the phrase would have said something along the lines of, from its beginning to 2001, the movement had opposed the standardization of taste. There has to be a reference to the ending of that action, like 2001, 2000, or any other indicator of the past point in time. The reason why has opposed is better than simple present in choice B is because simple present is used to generally express actions that occur repeatedly. Yes, the movement opposes the standardization of taste even today, but it is not something that repeats in the sense that the movement does not oppose and then go back to its beginning and oppose again in a repeating manner. So, rather than using a tense that implies that it will continue to repeat, we should use present perfect for an action that started in the past and continues to the present without implying that it will repeat. We use simple present tense for general statements of repeated actions like I go to the gym on Sundays. That would be an action that repeats. Number 27 now. A goat ingests the vegetation particular to the meadow in which it grazes, which, along with environmental factors such as altitude and weather, shapes the cheese's taste and texture. Here is another question on restrictive and non-restrictive clauses. Let's remove such as altitude and weather and see if the sentence still makes sense. A goat ingests the vegetation particular to the meadow in which it grazes, which, along with environmental factors, shapes the cheese's taste and texture. It still makes sense without such as altitude and weather, and therefore we can call this a non-restrictive phrase. Compare that to a restrictive clause. Let's consider the following sentence. Words such as street, avenue, and road are abbreviated only in addresses. Now let's remove such as street, avenue, and road. Then the sentence rereads as words are abbreviated only in addresses. This reduced sentence doesn't make much sense, which is why the clause such as street, avenue, and road is restrictive here and therefore isn't accompanied with commas. In summary, we would put commas to precede and close non-restrictive clauses such as the one in this question, and for restrictive clauses that when reduced affects the logic of the reduced sentence, we do not put commas. So choice B wraps our non-restrictive clause, such as altitude and weather, by preceding and following it with commas, and therefore choice B is our correct answer. Number 28. If all foods were produced under the industrial model, we would have meals that are not very flavorful. This is a content question that tests whether you understand the concept of standardization of taste. Standardization doesn't cause the meals to lack flavor per se. They cause foods to lose diversity of flavors, which is why the writer refers to region-specific goat cheese that depends on the meadow-specific vegetation that the goat grazes and the region's environmental factors when discussing the different tastes and textures of cheese produced by traditional methods. Therefore, choice C is our correct answer. Number 29. During their early years, the movement also focused on the value of spending lots of time with friends and family during long meals. The pronoun there doesn't refer to any person noun in the sentence, and whose or what's early years is it? It's the movement's early years. Therefore, we need to use a non-person pronoun in its possessive form, its, without the apostrophe. So choice D is our correct answer. Number 30. This question requires you to recognize the passage tone in that the content is portraying the slow food movement as a rather reasonable movement, as its beliefs are backed and supported by factual references to vegetation and environmental specific cheese, therefore portraying the movement's focus on extreme values such as deliberately eating slowly in choice D, time-consuming meals in choice C, and spending lots of time during long meals in choice A does not fit with the rest of the tone in the passage, as these descriptions seem a bit too excessive, especially in our busy day and age. Leisurely meals with friends and family is a mild and much more reasonable description of the value which fits much more effectively with the rationale-driven tone for the slow food movement. So choice B is our correct answer. Number 31. As the movement grew beyond Italy's borders, today Slow Food Movement International boasts more than 100,000 members in 150 countries. This emphasis on pleasure pictured criticism for being elitist. So in this diction question, you have to ask yourself, if there is a negatively perceived quality such as an emphasis on pleasure, would it picture, portray, sketch, or draw criticism? Well, I think it would draw criticism, as negative perceptions draw criticisms. All the other choices mean similar things, implying that the negative perception shows criticism. So, drew in choice D is our correct answer. Number 32. Critics have also asked if growing food using traditional methods, as opposed to mass production, can adequately and affordably feed the world? This is a statement informing the reader what the critics have asked. Therefore, we can eliminate choices A and B, for they contain question marks. You don't say, they have asked if XYZ is enough. You don't say it with a question mark. It's a statement of what they have asked. I asked my dad if he can buy me a PlayStation. Again, that sentence is a statement of your question to your dad. It's not a question, and therefore you don't include a question mark behind the statement of what your question is. And choice D is better than choice C because adverbs which in our sentence are adequately and affordably, these adverbs are best positioned as close to the verbs they modify as possible. So it's better to move the can to precede the adverbs. So choice D is our correct answer. And now our final question for this passage, number 33. Because the introductory phrase is underlined and the answer choices all offer transitional phrases, we know this is a transition question. Therefore, reading from the preceding sentence will allow us to recognize the relationship between the two sentences. Members assert that food should be flavorful, carrying the properties of a particular region. It should be raised using environmentally sustainable practices that preserve biodiversity. And it should be accessible to all without exploiting the labors of those who produced it. In short, Slow Food runs programs that support small-scale producers in marketing regional foods in a world where food corporations threaten to drive them out of the marketplace and homogenize food choices. The preceding sentence lists the beliefs of Slow Food members, and since the second sentence is about the programs that Slow Food runs, the relationship is not contradictory, therefore eliminating choice B. Choice A is incorrect because the second sentence is not a summary of the preceding sentence. In short, is a summarizing transition. So choice A is incorrect. Choice C, by the same token, is used when stating a similarly comparable situation, and since both sentences relate to Slow Food, the relationship is not similar, but closer than that. Finally, choice D is a perfect transition here because the transition to these ends, which means with respect to these things, this transition connects the two sentences by establishing the preceding sentence as reasons for the programs of the second sentence. So choice D is our correct answer.